Well, how's this thing supposed to start? My name's Aaron. Some of y'all might know me by Gimme. Some of y'all might not know me at all, but I think it's really important that we know these books really intimately. So I think it's time for you to go and check your shelf.
Haha! What's up, all y'all beautiful young people? It's your boy Gimme. Don't toy with me. We back again. Check your shelf. Episode 8. Can you believe we done this shit 8 weeks in a row? That's some real commitment, man. I'm starting to think we need to see other people, you know what I'm talking about? But I got a book here. I'm gonna read it. That's what we do here on Check Your Shelf. We read books that a lot of people scared to read. We decide what we gonna listen to, don't we? We don't let the government or like conservatives or like school systems decide what we can hear and what we ingest, right? So I'm glad you tuned in, man. It means a lot to me. We're gonna hop right into this shit because sometimes I talk too much on these intros and I lose a lot of listeners. So last week we experienced the difference between a teacher and a guru. Almost a little bit frustratingly, because after I listened to that episode and edited it, I had to kind of do a little self-reflection, man, because I got a little too heated with not knowing exactly where he was going instead of just kind of going with the flow and reading the book and listening to what he had to say. I was too busy trying to guess the ending and I got a little ahead of myself and it made me a little frustrated. So be mindful of that sort of thing. If you go back and listen, you can probably hear it yourself. We also experienced the cosmic joke of what it's of the struggle to be here now, right? Which is funny. It's funny because that's the only thing we can do. It's the only thing we've been doing this whole time, and you're always doing it correctly. But man, do we struggle to make sure we're mindful and present of that all the time. It's so hard, and that's so funny to, or whatever you call it. We also experienced how meeting a guru is more like looking into a mirror than it is actually having a discussion with or a conversation or an experience with another person. Kind of reflective of you, and there's a lot of projection involved when the conversation or experience happens when you actually meet a true guru. We also learned that you are the guru, which is kind of what that means. Metaphorically, you are the guru. So when you look at another guru and you see something reflected in him, it's part of your characteristics or your personality, right? We also experienced why it's so hard to remember the message, despite being such a pure spirit, despite being connected with the godly beings, the divine mother. Despite us all being such ancient creatures, we kind of experienced why it's so hard to remember the message. We also experienced what Jesus meant by I and my Father are one, like the Father, Son, Holy Ghost thing. We experienced that and dove a little bit into that for a couple pages. And finally, we experienced what the Atman. The Atman is kind of the divine self. What the self desires to be. Well, not desire, because that's a bad. See, worldly words, man. It's so hard to describe these sort of spiritual, next level, metaphysical stuff. But it's kind of like the Hindu word for just like when God and man kind of combine and become one. Something we're all kind of trying to eventually strive toward, you know. The Christians might describe it as going to heaven for it. But yeah, man, with that kind of out of the way, I mean, there's not a lot much more to say. We're almost towards the end of this book, and if you've been listening this far, please join the Facebook group. Feel free to join the Discord. I got 5 books that y'all can vote on, because when we finish this one, we got to go to another one. So if you want to vote, you can vote between Catcher in the Rye, Brave New World, 1984, The Great Gatsby, and Catch 22. This is kind of like the Mount Rushmore of like banned books. So like if you know anything about books that have been banned, you know, since the 50s, 60s, 70s, these are the ones that get banned constantly and consistently throughout America. So go cast your vote, man. If you want to be on Discord and keep it anonymous, you can. We're on Facebook. I haven't really made an Instagram or a Snapchat or anything for this yet, but you know, Facebook's a great place to have these groups and a community thing. So please join, man. I'll be glad to see the discussion. I'm excited to see the growth. So thanks again for stopping by. Let's finish this fucking book. We're gonna try to knock it out today or next week. So Let's hop into this shit, man. Check your shelf. Episode 8. Got my little drink poured up. I already smoked, so we got that shit out the way. We're on page 89. If you don't have the book along with you in your hands, feel free to hop on YouTube and find the video of today's episode. Link will be in the description. My thinking mind is a perfect servant and a lousy master. I am watching he who speaks. I am watching they who listen. I am watching, thinking. Thoughts are clouds. The entire process from this place inside is always calm. A place in which the flame never flickers. And as I learn to live in this eternally calm place, it gets deeper and deeper, calmer and calmer. And wiser and wiser and lighter and lighter. And I am more love. And I become more and more like the sun. Just the process of calming, centering, calming, extricating myself from the drama. So long as one feels that he is the doer, he cannot escape from the wheel of births and deaths. This doesn't mean that I'm lying in bed doing nothing. That's drama as much as this book is drama. Drama is drama is drama is drama. Desire is drama. Breathing is drama. Thought is drama. Emotions are drama. All form is drama. It's all part of the drama. I have no scruple of change nor fear of death. I was never born, nor had I parents. What does that mean? What it means is when you clear away all of the underbrush, when you go back and back, not for the fun of it or for the powers involved, but to go back to be who you really are. Who you are turns out to be spirit. Turns out not to be matter at all. No matter, never mind. No mind, never matter. Either way it works. I like that a lot. There's a lot of tattoo potential in that too. No matter, never mind. No mind, never matter. Because that's kind of like those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter, right? It's the same. It's a very similar thing. Only this was written. Well, that's an old ass saying. That was probably written a long time ago too. Round trip. Mind creates matter. The casual plane is the world of ideas. The world of ideas that creates the universe right at the top of the casual plane is what we call the Godhead. It's the first place into the universe of form. It's the first world of form. It's the place where the mind, that is God. This is some gobbledygook that just kind of the way this dude rambles. So I'm gonna have to try. I'm sight reading this and I'm trying to give it form, but it's just a round trip. Mind creates matter. The causal plane is the world of ideas that creates the universe. Right at the top of the causal plane is what we call the Godhead. It's the first place into the universe of form. It's the first world of form. It's the place where the mind that is God manifested into the universe. His thought manifested into all the lower levels of the causal plane, all the astral planes and the physical plane. And when you go back, you go to that place where you become one with the Godhead you are. God, you are the id. Oh, you are the idea. It is an actual. It is a thing. people say like I think it's might be Rasta. I think it is a Rasta thing. Where you become one with the Godhead. You are God. You are the idea that lies behind the universe. You are literally it. You're not making believe. You're it. You are it. I don't feel like he needed that many words to say that. Like, it's so funny because he seems to emphasize the importance and the beauty of really simple yet profound and beautiful, perfect statements. Yet he seems to have a hard time being able to speak it and produce it. Yes, he can accentuate how important it is, but he has a really hard time conveying that himself, and that bothers me a little bit because I'm trying to sight read this shit, bro, and you be rambling and it's tough. Okay. Lean back. And the funny thing is, you're still not finished. And as far as the Buddhist is concerned, you haven't even begun the trip. You're still hung up on form. Because he says, baby, it's all illusion. No matter how groovy it gets, the physical plane is obviously an illusion. All a dream. You go to bed at night and dream. You notice about your dreams, they're very real. And yet they don't have any substance on the physical plane. That's the astral plane. You're dreaming on the astral plane. At the point of pure ideas, sometimes very high physicists or poets touch pure idea. Sometimes music, art, a vase, a hieroglyph, or something gets so essency, you feel that you are touching God. By being in connection with that piece of art because it's pure idea, it's the idea of vastness. Vastness? I guess he's talking about literally like making a vase, right? Because he mentioned that paragraph above or beside it. A vase, yeah. It's the idea of vastness, like when he said when you do the task, you become the task. So like the vase has vastness, vase. By being in connection with that piece of art because it's pure idea, it's the idea of vasteness. It's the causal plane. The mind at the causal plane created that vase at the place of pure idea. All right, I had to reread it again. Sorry for the long pause. So I'm gonna try to break this down a little bit more simply. I think what he's saying here is there's this sort of theory that comes along with philosophical thought projects and experiments. So let's say somebody has a design for an extremely complicated and complex quilt built up in their head. That pattern exists despite it not being in the causal or material plane, right? Cause and effect, causal. So in the material plane, this quilt can't exist if the person who has the design in their head decides to take that idea and make it physical, right? What he's talking about is that despite the vase being made, the design still exists somewhere, so the vaseness of the vase still exists. The person who thought of that quilt can make that quilt, and it can exist on two separate planes. I think that's what he's talking about here, because the idea that you can create art from nothing and become in tune with the essence or God or whatever is so important that it almost is a sort of self-fulfilling prophecy. So if you're able to create something that inspires you to become in contact with God, is that you talking to God, or is that God talking to you, and who's using who to talk to the other person through the art? So I think that's what he's talking about here, and if he's not, that's what I deduced from it, and that's where we're going with it, because I'm the smartest man in the world. And I'm also extremely humble. It's the place where yin and yang manifest. It's the place where duality exists. The first place into form from the immanent duality in the unmanifest from the formless you come into. That place where there's energy becoming from. Yeah, this is just not how normal people write. I'm not going to try to read too far into this because it's a whole bunch of gobbledygook, hibbity-jibbity shit to me. In order to become a fully realized being, you must delight in the exquisiteness at every single level. You must take joy in your maleness or femaleness at the same moment that you realize that you are both male and female. It's that far out. But then you go through the final door. And you go from form into the formless. Oops, I bumped my mic. I apologize, baby. You go from form to the formless, into the void, into the beyond the beyond. When you have crossed the ocean of samskara, the ocean of illusion, the ocean of attachment, call it what you will, it's the same ocean. When you have crossed through all form, you enter the state of formlessness. It is eternally quiet. It never was. Do you think that the creation of everything from nothing is more substantial than the fact that maybe nothing exists and this is all an illusion? Which is harder to conceptualize? I think a lot of people are really worried about what happens after death, but not a lot of people are too concerned with what happens before you were born. And I imagine they're the same experience. And that's probably nothingness. And I'm not 100% sure if that's comforting or terrifying. Turn the page. Push far enough into the void. Hold fast enough to the quietness. And of the 10,000 things, none but can be worked on by you. I have beheld them, whether they go back. See all things, howsoever they flourish, return to the roots from which they grew. Dude, I read, bro. I'm good with words. What the fuck does this mean? Lao Tzu said this in the Tao Te Ching. Push far enough into the void, hold fast enough to quietness. And of the 10,000 things, none but can be worked on by you. I have beheld them. Whither they go back, see all things, howsoever they flourish, return to the roots from which they grew. So I guess he's saying that just like if you go far enough into the beyond, right? This place where only the spirit exists. If you go that far, then all of the things that you have worked on, you can kind of see them go back to their base form. I think that's what he's saying. And I had to really, really read that, guys. This return to the roots is called quietness. Quietness is called submission to fate. What has submitted to fate becomes part of the always so. To know the always so is to be illumined. Not to know it means to go blindly to disaster. So says Lao Tzu in the Tao Te Ching. Man, Lao Tzu really must have been on some shit, because dude, this is not how people talk. And then you're in the void. Then the Buddha nature sees there are many beings whose veils are very thin, and you can come back and teach them through your being. That's the bodhisattva role. Because you finally understand that, though it is all an illusion, it never was and never will be. At every level at which you exist, you're part of everybody else because it's all one being. Really, that's the bodhisattva problem. So what happens is you go all the way out and then you come back to here. He who clings to the void and neglects compassion does not reach the highest stage. But he who practices only compassion does not gain release from the toils of existence. He, however, who is strong in the practice of both remains neither in samsara nor in nirvana. He neither remains in the void nor in the world. I think that seems to be, from how I understand everything that's been said so far, that seems to be the end goal, right? So, because if you cling to the void, you're gonna, and again, the void is sort of like this ego trip, right? Like this thing that all humans seem to cling to, like, oh, I'm only gonna be alive for 80 years. I gotta make a bunch of money and have a family and continue all of this. So you have to, that's so tough, man, because if I'm so compassionate to a point that it ruins my ability to produce or survive or thrive, then I've also lost the point, because you can't just it's really hard to make this into a concise point. Gaining release from the toils of existence. We're talking about things like desire and attachment. We're not necessarily talking about the love you may have for your family, or the love you have for your pets, or the joy you get from doing a good job, or chasing your hobbies, or getting great exercise. Those aren't the things that we're talking about. We're talking about the attachment to these things and the suffering that comes along with that if you decide to cling to them. So if you are able to differentiate human experience from the love that you're generating for these humans that comes from a sort of like another place, that's the delicate balance that you're trying to find. Because you can't go so far into the hippie, I am love, I am everything, we are all one thing, because then you no longer are grounded in reality. You're no longer rooted in earth. And it becomes a lot harder to become a sort of rationalized and like dedicated being. You kind of just become this sort of wispy, flaky, shady creature that is just kind of speaking nonsense, which, I mean, not to be disrespectful, but this is kind of how I feel reading this book sometimes, you know. This is in quotes, and I wonder who actually said it. But yeah, let's keep going. Getting close to the end of this shit. The final place that the game leads to is where you live consciously in all of it, which is in nothing. You are eternal. You have finished perishing. There is no fear of death because there is no death. It's just a transformation, an illusion. And yet, seeing all that, you still chop wood and carry water. You still do your thing. You flow in harmony with the universe. You are beyond morality. And yet your actions are totally moral, because that's the harmony of the universe. You see that to do anything with attachment, with desire, with anger, greed, lust, fear, is only creating more karma, which is keeping you in the game, on the wheel of birth and death. Once you see through that, desires can't help but fall away. I really like that. You are beyond morality, and yet your actions are totally moral because that's the harmony of the universe. That means I don't like killing mice or insects. I don't like killing spiders unless it becomes pure instinct. I killed a spider last night because it scared the fuck out of me, but I don't like violence. I don't like confrontation. These sort of things have no business being in my life because they don't do much benefit unless the exact situation in which it's needed and called for it comes out, but very rarely are these things needed or necessary. That's my ego trying to have morals, despite us as humans being beyond morality. But that's the delicate balance. If we knew that we were above morality, that's the trick, that's the game, that's what we're all trying to achieve. And it's a dangerous place to try to get there because at that point, a lot of people might tune out. A lot of people might, get drunk with that power and do the wrong thing if they get there in an inappropriate way, or they don't have the right tools or the right path in front of them. But if you operate from a place without anger or greed or lust or fear, then it's a lot. Like I said, these are the Eightfold Path is a toolbox. If you open that toolbox when you decide to do a job, it's going to be a lot easier than if you use things like anger, greed, lust, or fear. And when you do that, karma, again, most people have kind of the wrong idea of what the word karma means. But every time you do something out of these sort of things, you're only keeping yourself in that samsara, that sort of Wheel of Fortune thing where 99% of the spins are spin again, please. Please keep playing. Like, it's tough out there. It's hard out here for a pimp, man. Watch it. Watch it, but at first when you see, you want to run down the streets shouting, spreading the good news. Run down the aisles of the churches yelling, listen to those words you're singing. It's really here. They're all true. You're singing about it all, just like the book says. Don't be psychotic. Watch it. Watch it. That psychosis is business. Is an interesting business. That psychosis business. The spacing and the kerning between these letters is a little tricky sometimes. That psychosis business is an interesting business if you go through the doorway too fast and you're not ready for it. You're bound hand and foot and thrown into the outer darkness. You may land anywhere, and lots of people end up in mental hospitals. The reason they do is they went through the door with their ego on, and wow, I've been invited to the wedding feast. I mean, dig me, Sam Jones. They don't understand that you gotta die to be born. I'm not really sure which direction I'm supposed to be reading this. So I'm gonna try this one more time and see if it makes more sense. That psychosis business is an interesting business. If you go through the doorway too fast and you're not ready for it, you're bound hand and foot and thrown into outer darkness. You may land anywhere, and lots of people end up in mental hospitals. The reason they do is they went through the door with their ego on, and they don't understand you gotta die to be born. Wow, I've been invited to the wedding feast. I mean, dig me, Sam Jones in heaven. Sam Jones standing on the right side of the Lord. There's the Lord, there's Gabriel, and there's Sam Jones. They don't understand that you gotta die to be born, that only when you have been born again do you enter the kingdom of heaven. So they've gone in on the first round. And what happens is they go on a huge ego trip. And it's called the Messianic Complex. It's called paranoia, delusions of grandeur. I wonder if those are supposed to be stops. You know, if you don't use those weird ass symbols right there, you use the comma instead, this would probably be a lot easier to digest, baby. They don't understand that you got to die to be born, that only when you've been born again do you enter the kingdom of heaven. So they've gone on in the first round, and what happens is they go on a huge ego trip, and it's called the Messianic Complex. It's called paranoia, delusions of grandeur. I have a relative who's in a mental hospital. He thinks he is Christ. Well, that's groovy. I'm Christ also. But he doesn't think I am Christ. He thinks he is Christ because it happened to him. And he took his ego with him. So he says, I'm special. And when I say to him, sure, man, you're Christ, and I'm Christ too, he says, you don't understand. And when he's out, he steals cars and things like that because he needs them, because he's Christ, and that's all right. So they lock him up, and he says, I don't know. Me? I'm a responsible member of society. I go to church. Me? They put in a mental hospital. You're free. You've got a beard. You wear a dress. You. Sure. Because as far as I'm concerned, we're all God. That's the difference. If you really think another guy is God, he doesn't lock you up. Funny about that. I think in a more subtle way, in so many words, he's saying, if you build a man up, he's a lot less likely to condemn you. Be mindful of the convolution that brings, however. Be prepared to play the game. You've got to be really pure. You can't just make believe you're pure. Anything less than total purity, back into outer darkness, that's what you learn after a couple hundred psychedelic trips. I might as well go straight because I'm beginning to feel like a yo-yo. I keep going up and coming down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But when the king came in to behold the guests, he saw there was a man who had not on a wedding garment. He said unto him, Friend, how camest thou thither not having a wedding garment? And he was speechless. Then the king said to the servants, Bind him hand and foot, and cast him into the outer darkness. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. For many are called, but few are chosen. When I hear weeping and gnashing of teeth, I just think of that Kanye song. It sucks that I don't know what this petty ass king has and this story has to do with anything. Let's hope it goes on, but as long as there's an up in your down, as long as there's an up down in your head, outer darkness, as long as you're in the world of yin and yang, outer darkness. It takes a lot of purification. Purification of what? Purification of thought, purification of body, freedom from attachment. And after a long time of going up and down without understanding why I was going up and down or how to stop it, slowly, it dawned on me. Now, why did I keep trying? The answer is very simple, and almost all of you know the answer already. The answer is once the seed has been planted, Once you have been born again, you don't have any choice. The next message is where you are when you hear the next message. Whenever you're ready, you'll hear the next message. The interesting thing is there's always a next message, and it's always available to you now. And that's a hard one. The handwriting is always on the wall saying, Magic Theater for madmen only. Price of admission, your mind. It's always there. Question is, can you see it? Funny thing about all the secrets of the East, or the secrets of mysticism, they're not secret. Nobody is saying, don't tell him. They're telling you. They're yelling it. They're saying, except ye be converted and become as little children, ye shall not enter the kingdom of heaven. That's a secret? Think of how many times you've heard that and you say, yeah, that's really interesting. That's great. That's the minister talking. He's doing his thing. He's got a living to earn. He's a good guy. The secret is a secret to you because of where your head is at. Your receiving mechanism isn't tuned for that particular frequency. I don't remember if I read this metaphor in this book, but it's kind of like, imagine the universe playing a trick on a radio, and the radio all of a sudden thinking it was the Beatles because it's playing a radio station that's transmitting a Beatles song through the radio. The radio is not the Beatles. It's metaphorical, allegorical. Think about it how you will. Decipher it how you want to. That's what it reminds me of. Did you hear that whisper? In my case, I kept reading the books, but I didn't understand them. They were yelling the secrets, but I couldn't hear them because I was looking at them from the wrong place. That was my problem. I couldn't get my head into the right place. I still wanted to know what I knew. See, I was still Western rational man. So I went and I looked and looked and looked, and as long as I looked like a rational man, looking, I didn't find anything. I just found my own shadow. All the time, that's all you ever find. Yourself. You only read to yourself. You only talk to yourself. You only ever know yourself. That's all there is, strangely enough. I would love to go back through and see what all these books are titled. I wonder if there's anything good. Oh yeah, they're all pretty, you'll get the idea pretty quickly, but my adventures with myself. I walked the 7 paths. How should I know? I doubt it. I believe it. I love it. What's my responsibility? So it's just a bunch of books that are all titled sort of like introspective questions and things that he would ask himself. Oh, I'm so sorry. I moved my mic so I could get better audio, and I keep bumping it. Bump it up. I saw that my whole game didn't work. It gave me all the rewards that seemed to be offered, but it didn't work. There was a place in me that knew it wasn't working. I knew there was something else, but I couldn't get to it. At that point, I gave up. And then I was ready for the next message. When I went through the doorway, I thought, wow, it isn't like I thought at all. I mean, if I'm going to spend my life manipulating this puny ego through a set of power games and sensual gratifications, what's the payoff? the end, it's going to end. In the end, it's going to end anyway because it's all in time. And suddenly, I dig who I am at that moment when I'm stoned. Hi. Oh, yeah, baby. Boy. What else we got to say other than the Daily Dab segment's kind of whack, and I might be retiring it, but Snape? I really almost said Snoop and Dre, and it came out Snape, bro. That's crazy. That banger's still hot as fuck, and I got the lo-fi and the Dr. Dre playing in my headphones at the same time, so my brain is essentially trying to tear itself apart. Appreciate y'all West Coast legends for giving me the soundtrack to waste some brain cells, man. Let's get back to the bullshit, bro. We got a book to read, dog. Man, I'm not even coughing, bruh. And suddenly, I dig who I am. Whoa, what happened to the music? Is it? Oh, it just changed songs on me as soon as I came back. I'm tripping. And suddenly, I dig who I am at that moment when I'm stoned. I am out of time. I am out of space. But boy, does it feel valid. Does it feel real? It feels like the first real thing that's ever happened to me. Everything else had a certain hustle-like quality to it, except my suffering. That's an interesting point to try to notice, and I would like maybe some of us to try to notice that in our everyday life too. Are we making an extreme point to validate our suffering, but making a conscious effort to avoid validating the blessings that we receive? I would like for everybody to try to kind of spin around and hug on that thought for a little while when you go through your day. Do it for me. Am I he? I was really into my suffering. You can really get into your suffering. Self-pity, that's real. Everything else may go, but boy, you've got to suffer. It's the same for all of us. We're just coming out of the dark night of the Protestant. We're just coming out of the dark night of the Protestant ethic. Suffer, baby. That's the only way you'll be good. It feels so good to hurt so bad. We've all been on that trip. Suffering is great. It's like straightening by fire. It's purifying. It's very good. A funny thing, want another paradox? This trip requires total suffering, but it's got to be suffering that is no suffering. You've got to go the whole suffering trip, but you can't be the guy who is suffering. Do you think that when Christ was lying there, am I missing a book? Am I missing a page? Oh no, I'm missing a page, guys. Yeah, there's a page missing in the PDF. I hope it's not a bunch of them. Will it show up on the, okay. Sorry, I'm gonna have to do it like this. Do you think that when Christ is lying there and they're nailing the nails in, he's saying, oh man, does that hurt? He's probably looking at the guy who's nailing him with absolute compassion. He digs why the cat's doing it, what he's stuck in, how much dust covers his eyes, why he's got to be doing it. I mean, that's the way it is. He said the night before, well, tomorrow's the big trip. Yeah, right. These are the nails. Wow, look at that. Am I he who has been pained? No. That's the thing. Once you know that, then pleasure and pain, loss and gain. Oh, yo, this is a fire. Yo, this is bars right here. Yo, pleasure and pain, loss and gain, fame and shame. All of those things, yeah, they're all the same. I said pleasure and pain, loss and gain, fame and shame. Yeah, they all the same. Hey, hey. They're all just happening. Really, really detailed and intricate illustration of Jesus getting crucified right there. The nail going straight into his wrist, too. Kind of brutal. Kind of brutal. You are standing on a bridge, watching yourself go by. Wow. Look at that. Something about the ending of that book just resonates. That's the end of the book that he wrote. And at the end of that, he's got this thing called a cookbook for a sacred life. And it's dedicated for those who wish to get on with it. I'm not going to go through it because I'm not going to go through the whole thing because a lot of it is mantras in different languages, quotes, hundreds and hundreds of quotes from multiple people, books that you should sit with, a lot of yoga poses, and things like that. So I've marked out a couple sections, and I'm just going to read some of the things that I thought were kind of potent and important. And yeah, I'm gonna just run through those, and after that I'm gonna say goodbye, and then I'll see you guys next week for season 2. Right now it looks like Catcher in the Rye is in the lead to be the next book that we read, and Catch 22 is right behind it. So if you guys feel like you want to go vote, man, please hop in the Discord, hop in the Facebook group, and go vote. No skin off my back to wait until the last day to figure out what I'm reading. So if you subscribe to the podcast or follow me on YouTube and then you go cast your vote, send me a picture, man. I'll cash app you $2.50. Go get you a soda on me. You know what I'm saying? Go buy you a cigarillo. Maybe $2.50 ain't shit no more. Maybe I should offer $5. Maybe I'll do that next season. Anyways, let's get on with this shit. Let's end this bitch powerfully. Got a drink in hand. I'm about to take a dab, and then we gonna get right onto this cookbook. I'll see y'all in a second. Cookbook for a Sacred Life. Dedicated to those who wish to get on with it. We offer this book with humility and a compassionate awareness of our own predicament and yours. We are all on the journey towards enlightenment, and at each stage must share what has been discovered with those who will listen. The sharing is part of the work. The listening is part of the work. We are all on the path. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with one step. But where do we begin? The answer is simple. You begin just where you are. If thou but settest foot on this path, thou shalt see it everywhere. This manual concerns no more or no less than the living of daily life. At first you do sadhana, work on the spiritual path, within certain time and space boundaries, such as going to church on Sunday mornings or getting high on Saturday nights, or meditating each morning. But eventually, it turns out that sadhana is everything you do. Warning: if you don't have room in your living room for an elephant, don't make friends with the elephant trainer. These are some quotes on readiness and what it means to be ready. for this path. Who hath ears, let him hear. Jesus said that one. Dislodging a green nut from a shell is almost impossible, but let it dry, and the slightest tap will do it. You can't teach a hunter that it is wrong to kill. The eternal world, or the external life, is not a valley of suffering for those who enjoy it, but only for those who know of a higher life. The animal enjoys animal life, the intellect, the intellectual realm, but he who has entered into regeneration recognizes his terrestrial existence as a burden and a prison. With this recognition, he takes upon himself the cross of the Christ. The cross of Christ. Most truly I say unto you, unless anyone is born again, he cannot see into the kingdom of God. Unless anyone is born from water and spirit, he cannot enter into the kingdom of God. What has been born from the flesh is flesh, and what has been born from the spirit is spirit. We are born into the world of nature. Our second birth is into the world of spirit. This is a sort of Q&A about the guru and the teacher. Question: I have read many holy books that you need to have a guru, a spiritual guide, to realize an enlightened state. If this is true, how do I go about finding one? At certain stages in the spiritual journey, there's a quickening of the spirit which is brought about through the grace of a guru. When you are at one of the stages where you need this catalyst, it will be forthcoming. There is really nothing you can do about gurus. It doesn't work that way. If you are looking for a guru and you are not ready to find one, you will not find what you are looking for. On the other hand, when you are ready, the guru will be exactly where you are at the appropriate moment. All you can do is purify yourself in body and mind. Each stage of purification will make you sensitive to new levels of perception. Finally, you arrive at a level where the guru is, and there is no one who is ready for the grace of the guru who does not receive it at that very moment. Question: does everyone have a guru? Yes. However, you may or may not meet your guru on the physical plane in this lifetime. It isn't necessary. Since the relation between a guru and a chela, the disciple, since the relationship between a guru and a chela is not on the physical plane, the guru can act upon you from within yourself. You may meet him through dreams or visions, or you may merely just sense his presence. However, it is only after much purification that you will honor these meetings, rather than rejecting them in favor of the more gross manifestations. There have been many saints who have realized enlightenment without ever meeting their guru in a physical manifestation. Question: how will I know how to purify myself without the guidance of a guru? Relax, you are being guided. In fact, the next message you need in the treasure hunt is exactly where you are when you need it. The message may be in the form of a teacher or a lover, or an enemy, or a pet rock, or a pet or a rock, or a chemical or a book, or a feeling of great despair, or a physical illness, or the eyes of a person you pass on the street. What's the difference between a teacher and a guru? A teacher points the way. A guru is the way. In the course of your awakening, you will have thousands of teachers. And throughout all of this teaching, the guru waits, beckoning from beyond. Question: there are many beings who profess to be gurus. Should I follow one of them? How do I choose from among them? You can't choose to follow a guru. It doesn't work that way. If you're in doubt, don't. When the correct manifestation of the guru for you appears, you'll know it with all your heart. It is surrender, which is no surrender. It is inevitable and totally compelling. Now, it is possible that a being who is ultimately to be known to you as your guru comes forward and says, I am your guru, and you hold back. That's because you are not ready. You can't honestly do otherwise. Don't worry. When you are ready, he'll be back. Just relax. Trust the process. And see, now we're just kind of hopping back into more quotes here. Guru, God, and self are all one. Rainwater falling upon the roof of a house flows down to the ground through spouts shaped grotesquely like a tiger's head. One gets the impression that the water comes from the tiger's mouth, but in reality it descends from the sky. In the same way, the holy teachings that come from the mouths of godly men seem to be uttered by those men themselves, while in reality they proceed from God. And this is sort of a section on renunciation. You might think of renunciation in terms of You might think of renunciation in terms of some external act like a New Year's resolution, or leaving your friends and family to go off to a cave, but renunciation is much more subtle than that, and much harder, and much more continuing. On the spiritual journey, renunciation means non-attachment. To become free from attachment means to break the link identifying you with your desires. The desires continue. They are a part of the dance of nature. But a renunciate no longer thinks that he is his desires. What is the necessity of giving up the world altogether? It is enough to give up the attachment to it. A sadhak, someone doing sadhana, sees clearly that his craving is creating his own veil of illusion. At this point, desires start to fall away of themselves. This process is called the onset of vairag, the falling away of worldly desires. As each one falls away, more subtle forms of desire arise, and these too must be given up. Eventually, the only desire is for bliss. Then that one must be thrown away. As long as any desire pulls or pushes you, you are like a flame which flickers in the winds. But as you come to your center, and you break identification with desire, you become calm, like a candle in a niche where no wind comes. Remember, you can't do away with desire, or give it up, or try to get rid of it. However, with increased wisdom and preoccupation with your sadhana, desires will just fall away. You cannot rip the skin from the snake. It will shed its skin when it's ready. Here's a couple exercises that might be able to help you with renunciation. This is something that I've been doing for an extended period of time now. I think there's actually, I thought it was 2 in a row, but I think that'd be later on. Get in a habit of remaining silent for a few hours a day. This is most easily done when one is at home or around people who understand what you are trying to do. In India, if you're silent, everyone immediately says, Mauna, and honors you. In the West, people either interpret silence as a sign of your hostility towards them or a physical illness about which they feel pity. And either of these reactions make your work more difficult. At first, you may want to remain by yourself during these few hours. Later, you will be able to be around people comfortably without having to speak. I don't know why I'm having such trouble. This is finally written like this is like normal words now. We're into like somebody edited this, you know? No, it's no more weird 70-year-old man gobbledygook. Oh, he was probably young when he wrote this book. I'm tripping. I don't mean to do him like that. Anyway, I'm just making excuses. I realized in this place that people feared silence more than anything else. That our tendency to talk arises from self-defense and is always based upon a reluctance to see something, a reluctance to confess something to oneself. The more you talk about it, the more you think about it, the further from it you go. Stop talking, stop thinking, and there is nothing you will not understand. Those who know do not talk, and talkers do not know. He who tells the truth says almost nothing. O Lord, thou shalt open my lips, and my mouth shall declare thy praise. We go through a section on eating. We are what we eat may be an oversimplification, but it contains a grain of truth. Don't eat too much. The traditional way of saying this is that at the conclusion of a meal, a yogi's stomach should be half full of food, 1/4 full of water, and 1/4 full of air. If a person eats with anger, the food turns to poison. Make sure you offer all of your food to the guru when you eat if you want to make it a sort of practice in your sadhana. Even eating can be a religious experience. We got some yoga positions, we got some mantras. So what are the steps of the process of calming the mind? Think of a lake in whose depths lie hidden what you seek. You try to see down into the lake, but you can't because the surface is covered with waves going in all directions. Choppy water, thoughts coming from all directions, from your senses, from your memory. Habits of thought learned unconsciously, running off mechanically, the causes of which are too subtle for your analytic mind to grasp. Now, create an artificial wave. Consciously add a new component. Choose a single thought and consciously set about making that thought dominant, so that a continuous sequence of even waves, all coming from one direction, overrides all of the choppy water, as an ocean wave absorbs all the eddying waters at the shoreline. Now each wave is that same thought over and over again. No other thought can capture your attention, which remains fixed upon the single thought. Does this mean that other thoughts stop? No. Thoughts continue as a natural process in nature, but you run them through on automatic, base brain, the same way most people drive an automobile. That is, without attending to each movement of the accelerator or steering wheel. We function under the fallacy that we are our thoughts and therefore must attend to them in order for them to be realized. To break your identification with your own thoughts is to achieve inner freedom. So you identify with this new thought you have added until you and that thought have become one, and all other thoughts are passing just like clouds in the sky. When you have arrived at the point where that one thought is the dominant one for you at all times, when going to sleep or waking, when walking or sitting, when talking or eating, then all of your life is on automatic. Then you are free of all but that one thought. And then through deep meditation, you leave that thought aside. And then we go into a bunch of mantras that are in different languages, but I think some of them have translations. With a beam of love, I touch the heart of my brother, sister, father, mother, beloved. All evil vanishes for life. All evil vanishes from life for him who keeps the sun in his heart. How about this one? Let It Be by Paul McCartney. If the enemy cannot turn us from prayer by means of vain thoughts and sinful ideas, then he brings back into our minds the good things we have been taught and fills us with beautiful ideas, so that one way or another he may lure us away from prayer, which is a thing he cannot bear. It's called a theft from the right-hand side. Money can be seen as a green energy. So the way you spend money can also be a sort of karma or karmic debt. Sexual tantra. Every time you have sex, it should be done through the yoga of devotion. Become a devotee to God as a lover. To practice sexual tantra, total truth and total trust are required. Allow these two bodies to become one. Ramakrishna points out that when a tree is very small, We protect it by surrounding it with a fence so that animals do not step on it. Later, when the tree is bigger, it no longer needs the fence, and then it can give shelter to many. So it is with spiritual growth. So the progression is quite, I don't want to read this from the book, but it's once you start following the path and you get to a point where you can pave the path and allow others to walk with you, you just kind of, that's what we're doing, right? We're trying to grow ourselves into much bigger trees so that we can provide shelter to other people. And the progression is quite inevitable. After some time on the path of awakening, the type of associates you share time with changes. Finally, you realize that except for existing karmic commitments, there's no reason to spend time with anyone except as an aid to one's sadhana. So all new relationships, friendships, roommates, marriages, etc. When your center is firm, when your faith is strong and unwavering, then it will not matter what company you keep. Then you will see that all beings are on the evolutionary journey of consciousness. They differ only to the degree that the veil of illusion clouds their vision. But for you, you will see behind the veil to the place where we are all one. Bad company is loss and good company is gain. In company with the wind, the dust flies heavenwards. If it joins water, it becomes mud and sinks. Truth gets you high. There's no doubt about it. Lies bring you down. To lie to another person, you have to see them as him or her or them as an object. You have to see him, her, or them as an object. Such distance that the act of lying creates turns out in the long run to cost more than the lie gained for you in the first place. Once you understand the workings of karma, you see that there is no escape from the effects, both short and long term. Even if your acts are done in the service of the ego, then they do more harm to your karma. So make sure you're not. It's that whole shove a camera in a homeless person's face as you give them $1,000 type shit. We all know you're just getting more views and more sponsorships because that video is going to get 1 million views. We understand the business. We get it. If you deny the existence of your fault or error, it will strengthen its hold over you. If you recognize it, your awareness will destroy it. He who rejects this will never know the entrance to the temple. Remember not to drop out of the entire world. Just because you are seeing divine light and experiencing waves of bliss or conversing with the gods and goddesses is no reason not to know your zip code. Keep it together, man. To think that working on oneself requires dropping out of society is to miss the point. Certainly you must drop out, but the dropout is eternal, not external. One drops out of one's attachment. One drops out of one's identification with the illusion of separateness. Those who think the dropout from one or another social institution is truly dropping out are naive. It is merely more of the illusion. For we can see that the dropouts almost immediately form new social institutions, new religions, priesthoods, new traps for keeping themselves in the illusion. The Buddha says, as long as you think there is a doer, then you are still caught in the wheel of birth and death. Does that mean you should sit in bed and not do anything? Well, that's doing something. In fact, as long as you are in your body, you must do things. So that couldn't be what Buddha meant. No, he meant something much farther out. He meant that you do what you do, but you do not identify with the doing of it. All doing is happening as part of the dance of nature. And through your body and mind, though your body and mind speed about their business, you remain in your calm center, here, where we all are. It's hard to, it's really crazy because we just read a whole book about this shit, right? And it's still harder to really sum everything up than that. If you can just be here all the time, we are all also here, and that makes everyone so much stronger and closer to God, right? Closer to God. I'm just saying that because I have a lot of Western listeners. I speak in a lot of metaphors, so just kind of shut up about it, you know? Figure it out. You're a smart cookie. The term meditation is used in such a variety of ways that it may mean anything, from daydreaming to musing to deliberating about a topic to a specific discipline of working with the mind that can be so exact that every act of body and thought is prescribed. The way in which the term meditation is used in yoga is in the more formal and disciplined sense. As such, it is distinguished from reflection or contemplation. It includes two processes: making the mind concentrated or one-pointed, and bringing to total cessation of the turning of the mind. The human mind is like that monkey, incessantly active by its own nature. Then it becomes drunk with the wine of desire, thus increasing its turbulence. After desire takes possession, comes the sting of the scorpion of jealousy at the success of others, and last of all, the demon of pride enters the mind, making it think itself of all importance. As long as the mind is caught in the senses, and you are caught in your mind, you remain in the illusion, since in the last analysis your thoughts create your universe. Only when your mind has become completely calm will you reach Buddhahood or enlightenment. The soul has the means. Thinking is the means. It is inanimate. When thinking has completed its task of release, it has done what it had to do and ceases. The simplest instructions for meditation are given in this book called The Song of Mahamudra. Do not with the body but relax. Shut firm the mouth and silent remain. Empty your mind and think of naught like a hollow bamboo. Rest at ease your body, giving not nor taking. Put your mind at rest. The great way is a mind that clings to naught. Thus practicing, in time, you will reach Buddhahood. The Southern Buddhists practice a form of meditation called Satipatthana Vipassana, the application of mindfulness. It starts with the simple exercise of bare attention. All that you do is register thoughts, states, etc. in the present. This process slows down the transition from the receptive to the active phase of the cognitive process. You don't think about your thoughts, you merely note them. This produces peaceful penetration. That's what he said. And you transcend conceptual thought. Oh, here it is. I thought it was in this book. I couldn't exactly remember, but so you find a quiet, peaceful place where you will not be disturbed. And if you wish to purify the spot first, you could stir a glass of water and sing this mantra. That's like some Wiccan stuff if you believe in that sort of thing. I mean, personally, I don't disbelieve in it, but I've just never tried it or, used it for myself. So feel free to do these sort of things if you wish. Get into a comfortable seat. It should be in a position you can remain in for at least 30 minutes without moving or discomfort. It is desirable that the head, neck, and chest be in a straight line. At first, let your mind wander and just watch it. Just note how your mind works. Don't think about the thoughts, just note them. Do this for about 30 minutes a day for a week. Then find a muscle in your abdomen just below your rib cage which moves every time you breathe such that it falls and rises. Attend to it. Every time the muscle rises, think rising, and every time it falls, think falling. Rising, falling, rising, falling. Let all other thoughts drift by and keep your attention focused on this muscle. Don't lose heart. At first, the mind will wander frequently, and each time it does, follow it. Immediately upon becoming conscious of your mind wandering, follow it. Note where it wandered to, and then immediately return back to rising, falling, rising, falling. Or if you prefer, you can substitute counting. Om, in breath, 1, out breath. 2 or more syllable numbers can be divided into in and out breath, 14, etc. After you get in the habit of noting each stimuli in the here and now without thinking about it, then add additional steps designed to further free you from illusion. Another way to do it is called Tratak, and this is one that I've done a lot of times and have a lot of fun with. Set a candle at a distance of about 20 inches in front of you. The height of the flame should be at a level with a point between your eyebrows when you are sitting up straight. Sit comfortably, but with your neck, head, and chest in a straight line. If you are able to do so, close your mulband, which is pull up at a point halfway between your genitals and your anus. This closes the sphincters and pulls energy up towards the upper part of the body. Do not strain to do this. With practice, it comes naturally. Starting with 5 minutes and increasing by about a minute a day, work your way up to an hour. Just sit with the candle. Don't do anything, just hang out with the candle flame. Let any thoughts that enter your mind pass by like clouds in the sky. See all thoughts and sensations as tiny insects hovering around the flame. Don't try to make the flame change. Don't try to focus or to see. Just be with the flame. If your eyes water, it's all right. If your eyes hurt, then stop. After a period of time, there will be just you and the candle flame. There are no impediments to meditation. The very thought of such obstacles is the greatest impediment. I think most people listening, if you believe in God, well, that's maybe not true, because in Hinduism there are multiple gods, so maybe that's not. But those are all illusions and stuff anyways. It's all gobbledygook. Those are just representations of humans' manifestation of what they think God is. The Christian God's not really there. Sorry, I hate to break it to you guys, but God created the Hindu gods and God created the Christian God through the illusion of humans. What can't be said, and it can't be whistled either. A Zen student must learn to waste time conscientiously. I think we'll close with this. Ask yourself, where am I? Here. What time is it? Now. Say it until you can hear it. Set alarm clocks or design your day or put up notes on the wall so that a number of times during the day, when you're in the midst of various occupations, you confront yourself with the questions. Where am I? And then answer. What time is it? And then answer. Each time you do this, try to feel the immediacy of the here and now. Begin to notice that wherever you go or whatever time it is by the clock, it is always here and now. In fact, you will begin to see that you can't get away from the here and now. Let the clock and earth do their thing. Let the comings and goings of life continue, but you stay here and now. This is an exercise to bring you to the eternal present, where it all is. For specific periods of time, focus about your thoughts in the present. Don't think about the future. Don't think about the past. Just be here now. Reflect on the thought that if you are truly here and now, it is enough. And B, you will have, A, it is enough, and B, you will have optimum power and understanding to do the best thing at the given moment. Thus, when then the future becomes now, if you have learned this discipline, you will then be in an ideal position to do the best thing. So you need not spend your time worrying now about then. Reflect on the fact that you can plan the future in the here and now, as long as when then is now, you are fully here and now. Does that seem paradoxical? Of course. Keep reflecting. And then we just kind of get into a little bit about psychedelics and a little bit more about sadhana and what a daily routine and a weekly routine looks like at Zen centers. We learn about how to maybe set up a spiritual community, We learned a little bit more about roles and higher roles in the churches and temples. And then we get into a glossary and a bunch of books that get suggested that you guys should read, sit with, or visit every now and then. I don't know, man. I feel such a strange feeling of resolution, and I almost want to cry a little bit. But that was a really fun read through. I haven't read through it in a couple years, especially as a sober adult. I'm not sure who I'm gonna give this book to, but I'm gonna give it to somebody. Probably my mom. Even though I don't think she's gonna read it, but yeah. So this is the last episode to be here now. I think the next episode, it looks like it's gonna be for Catcher in the Rye. It might be Catch 22, or I'm offering a little bit of cash to people to vote. So you never know. It might fuck around and be something crazy different. One of the other three that haven't been voted on yet. Well, actually, Great Gatsby got 1 vote, and Brave New World got 1 vote too. But Catcher in the Rye's got 4, and Catch 22's got 3. So, but yeah, man. Check your shelf, bitch. The end of season 1. We don't take no breaks. Season 2, next week. I might even fuck around and do some like quizzes, trivia questions, stuff like that, and start giving out cash prizes or Amazon gift cards, or I might just pay your YouTube Premium or your Netflix for a month or something like that. You know what I mean? But yeah, I had a lot of fun. I'm trying to. But yeah, man, I had a lot of fun, and I can't thank you enough. I can't believe you're still listening sometimes, but you know what I'm saying? We out here, and I'm gonna keep on talking because there's still ears out there. So it's much love, always has been. Y'all be good, and I'll see you next season.